I have a motion. I have a first. I need a second. I have a second from Supervisor Shakur, who is now in the chambers. Please note accordingly. Any discussion about the minutes from February 18th, 2026? Hearing none. Youth and Governance, all in favor? Committee, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I skipped over one thing. Could I have Youth and Governance? I believe it's Rivera. She's going to read our Youth and Governance statement.
Hello, we are members of the Racine County Youth and Governance Program, and we will be participating in tonight's meeting. This program serves to empower youth in Racine County by encouraging us to participate in local government. We have agreed to abide by the applicable standards of conduct that would govern any elected county board member. While we are encouraged to participate and are allowed to have a non-binding advisory vote on matters before the committee, all formal action taken by this committee will be based solely on the binding votes made by county board supervisors.
Thank you, Valeria. Appreciate it. Number 5 on the agenda is the Human Resources, Sarah Street. Resolution by the Finance and Human Resource Committee authorizing modification to the compensation structure for non-represented Racine County employees. Action requested this evening for reading on March 10th, 2026 at the county board meeting. Sarah Street is here. Sarah?
Hello, good evening, Chair and members of the committee. Last week, you heard an overview of the salary study itself, kind of giving you the foundation of how we got here, the methodology that was used by McGrath, and what the data tells us about our current compensation structure. Tonight's discussion moves us to the next step. Rather than focusing on the analysis, we're here to discuss our recommendation for how the county could implement the salary study findings. As McGrath identified in the report, the county's current compensation structure has become overly complicated, inconsistent, and increasingly uncompetitive. Over time, multiple salary schedules and case-by-case adjustments have created a system that makes it more difficult to maintain internal equity and remain competitive with recruiting and retaining employees. The recommendation that you are about to hear would move the county to a simplified single range pay system consisting of 23 pay grades aligned with market data. The goal is to create a more transparent and sustainable framework that allows the county to administer compensation more consistently moving forward. Importantly, our recommendation that you're going to hear tonight can be accomplished within the adopted 2026 budget using funds that have already been authorized. This creates a fiscally responsible opportunity to update our compensation structure while promoting fairness, transparency, and long-term predictability in how we manage the county's largest expense. So with that, I will turn it over to Melina Halverson-Mays with McGrath, who has a brief presentation that she'll share with us.
Good evening, Melina.
Good evening. Is this on?
Yes.
Wonderful. Melina Halverson-Mays with McGrath Human Resources Group, and I thank you for the opportunity to meet you in person here this evening, and I appreciate the ability to be online last week. I do have just a couple of slides that I want to go through with you here this evening. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them because I really want to get right to the point of the dollars and how we derived at that number and allow you the opportunity to ask questions. So if you'll advance the slides. Much like what Sarah has just summarized here this evening, what we are looking to do is to just give you an overview of the implementation strategy that we are recommending for the county, and then for this item to be progressed forward to the full county board for the first reading on March 10th, followed by the second reading on March 24th, in which I intend to be present at that meeting. I would imagine that there's going to be a lot of questions from the county board as a whole. And the goal here is for a September 5th implementation date. That's a very specific date that we used, and we'll talk about that here as we progress. What that means, though, it doesn't mean that there's nothing happening between March 24th and September 5th. There's actually a lot of work that has to happen between now and then. So let's move forward. When we talk about, just kind of reiterate just recap what we talked about here last week, if we can advance the slide. We are looking at aligning the county at the 50th percentile of the comparable market that we studied, all of those salary ranges. Now that you've had a chance to hopefully digest that report, all of those 23 salary ranges do align with your competitive market. And that spread is anywhere from 20 to 40% spread, depending upon if you're in the general schedule or if you might be in one of the more specialized categories. We helped ensure that you have proper spread separation for compression. We know that that is a real issue, especially when it comes to a real complex organization like Racine County, because of a number of departments. You have unique industries within them, and we want to make sure that you have proper separation. And your employee progression, and this is going to be really important, your employee progression has historically been based upon your performance factors and, again, your ability to pay. We wanted to carry that forward with you. So when we're looking at the options that we had considered for Racine County, that was really one of our guiding principles. So let's go ahead and progress. When we're talking about implementation strategies, we're talking about a number of things. Number one, we've got all of the pay grade changes that have to be made. Number two is all the title changes that need to be made. And so between the time of adoption to September, there's going to be a lot of behind the scenes work done by finance and HR to get that new system ready to go live. But then what becomes really kind of when it comes right down to it, how much is it going to cost the county? And we're talking about what it's going to cost your individual employees to be placed within those new pay grades that we've developed for them. So when we're looking at that, we're looking at number one, what are your available resources? What can be implemented yet this year, and what might have to be planned for the county in future years? It's my understanding that the county has budgeted $542,000. We will be able to come in under that number during the 2026 fiscal year. With that, then, we are always looking at the timing of the implementation. That is part of the reason why we are utilizing September. Not only does HR and finance need some time to get the system up and ready and prepared, but we also we opted to prorate the cost for you in year one so that we came well within the budgetary parameters that you have allocated for us. And what's most important here is that our methodology, it's objective, it is defendable, it is equitable, and it's consistent, which means every employee is being applied the same rule. However that lays out in the new model is how that lays out. That is not to say that every employee is going to be the same. There are going to be some employees that get a very modest adjustment, and then there are going to be some employees that needed a little bit more to be able to get them up into that new salary range. And so we follow the same methodology with that, which is, if I go to A(1), all employees would be placed within their salary range, no decrease in wages, no one is going down, with a minimum of a 1% wage adjustment. It's a very modest adjustment. There are going to be employees that receive more than 1%, and that is because They need more to get up to that new minimum. Keep in mind from last week's presentation, I was talking to you over like high level that 63% of your positions on average are falling within the ranges. Well, that means that you do have some of your folks that are not. And so we have to make sure that we're getting them up to the minimums. If your employees were already well within that new range, they are simply just going to see a 1% salary adjustment. And again, I'll talk about why we're going to be doing that or why we're recommending that here in just a quick minute. Now, if there's any employee that's over the maximum, we call that a red circle situation. It means that they are over our published and recommended max. We do not decrease wages. We do not think that it would be a very good action item for the county. What we do recommend is that you hold their position or hold those wages right where they are, and you don't let them gain anything. So their base wages ends up being their base wages. I do believe that we are in a position where we have 0 people that are in a red circle situation. However, I will say that, you are always a little bit of a, I don't want to call it a moving target, but it really is because you're very fluid. You have a lot of employees that are coming and going at this point. So I can tell you right now here today, we do not have any red circle situations. By September, we might have that situation, but I really don't think that we will. I think we're going to be okay. If we want to advance then to section B. So the other part that we take a look at now is what we call in-range adjustments. And sometimes this gets to be a little bit more challenging because really what is the goal? The goal is to get your employees up into their respective salary range and let them now keep progressing forward within the guidelines that the county has established. And you have performance that is performance management that is established. So when we look at in-range adjustments, we look at a couple of different options. And the first one is to place your employees into their salary range by years of service with the county. Some other organizations might look at years in position. That helps us to be able to provide some separation within the range. The challenge with that is that you have historically been a performance management organization, and this sometimes minimizes the advances that the employees have had through their salary ranges with that performance measure. So that there's always that consideration. The second item that we took a look at is, all right, well, we know that your true market number is that identified published midpoint number that we have listed in the salary ranges. What would it cost the organization to get you up to that midpoint where we could say everyone is at market midpoint and all of your progression is going to be from that midpoint forward? That helps ensure that every individual employee is absolutely at that true market point for themselves, regardless of how long they've been in the position. That ends up usually being a very costly option for the organization, and I'll let you look at the numbers on the next slide. And then the third option that you have, which gives you, it is really your most financially responsible option and allows you then that opportunity to continue with performance management, which you are doing this year, is just simply to move the employees to the minimums, a tiny little adjustment to make sure everyone's got a guaranteed movement, and then you get everyone on the model, and then you just let them keep going from that point. So those really were the primary 3 that we looked at, and all of that comes with a dollar amount. If we can advance to the next slide. I don't want anyone to go into sticker shock here. So all of those come with a cost. So we're going to just walk through them one at a time. But before we do that, we do know that between now and September, you have your merit adjustments that are going to be going into effect. And so what we did here for this costing, knowing that you've got employees that are coming and going between now and then, we estimated what we believe the average merit adjustment is going to be. We know some people are going to be a little higher than that. Some people are going to be a little lower than that, but that was our one primary assumption that we used. So with that, then we costed what's the delta or what's the difference then from what the employee wages, what we're expecting them to be post merit to what our implementation strategy is. And our first option, which was to get everybody up to the market midpoint, and that was the one that I said is going to be the most costly to you because it does require the most movement by your employees. You can see that that one is going to, based on today's employee roster, is just shy of $8.8 million, and that excludes benefit roll-ups. To the levy, that would be about $5 million. And if we were to prorate that to the last 4 months of the year, it would be just shy of $1.7 million. And then your new base going forward into the next year would be that solid $5 million. Okay. So that is the most expensive option that the county could consider. So then what we did was we took a look at, all right, let's go by years of service with the county. Sometimes your years in position information is not 100% accurate, so we used years of service. That is going to cost the county $2.6 million for an entire year. However, you do have, and I should have talked about with the first option, you've got grants, you've got state funding, you've got federal funding. So you've got some alternative sources. So the levy is the true levy. The difference might be something that's going to be able to be funded by another revenue source. So by going by years of service with the county, we're just shy of 1.4 million for the entire year. And if you look at prorating that into the last 4 months of the year, we're talking about $462,000 plus your benefit roll-ups. And then the last one, which is what our recommendation is for the county, to be, fiscally conservative, fiscally responsible, and allow that merit process to continue for your employees the rest of this cycle. It will cost the county $1.9 million. $1 million of that is your levy. And if we look to prorate that for the last 4 months of the year, we are at about $335,000, which comes in well under the $542,000 that the county has budgeted. I think it gives you your best flexibility because it allows you to keep merit, which is, which is very important to the county to keep that system going. With that, I would love to answer any questions. And then there might be some details here in this whole process that we might have to ask their finance director and your human resources director as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to first open up, first of all, I need a motion on this recommendation per the resolution this evening. I need a motion on this, please, from the committee. Do I hear a first? I have a first from Supervisor Shakur. I need a second. I have a first and a second from Supervisor Nielsen. Discussion from the committee.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Miller?
thank you very much. Just a question, why in the implementation strategy costs, the benefits are not included? Because that's a real cost to us.
And I might ask the finance director, because there may be a general percentage that sometimes is utilized. When we give that information, we give that as a dollar amount excluding benefit roll-ups, because the benefit roll-ups are going to be usually they're percentage based, and you can just add that certain percentage for the WRS and any other type of employer FICA FUTA matches. Gwen?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Melina. I did not include the benefits on here because the wages are going to be the bulk of that cost. And the only fringe that would increase are things that are that variable rate. So the WRS, the FICA, workers' comp, public liability, other things like health insurance and stuff like that will not change. So if we were to estimate, I would say probably 15%. I still felt comfortable that it was within the budgeted amount within the 2026 annual budget.
Thank you. Any additional questions from the committee? Supervisor Spencer?
Thank you. Hi. I missed the last meeting, but I did listen to it. And so I'm somewhat caught up. My question is well, it's relevant and it has to do with the benefits and the the retirement system,
Okay.
WRS. If there's a lot of employee rollover if we don't do something. If someone is leaving Racine County to go to a different county, does their time in the retirement system go with them or do they start over?
No, if you are transferring to another organization within the state that is WRS participating, which is just about every municipality or county in the state, then your service will carry forward because it's a system benefit. It's a defined benefit program. Yes.
All right.
Now, if you were to leave and withdraw your dollars, then you would have to restart that again. That new clock starts all over if you leave, take your money and then rejoin.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to open up any questions from the supervisors not on the committee. Questions? Supervisor Rossi? Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Question, when you did this study, did you take into consideration things like, I'm going to compare a lot of things to Kenosha. That's one I really focused on here. Did you take into consideration, when you're talking about total employment packages, compensation, how about the option to work from home? Is that taken into consideration, our county versus Kenosha County?
Right. So no, the straight up answer to that is no. And that is because every organization, an example like that is a perfect example that every organization approaches the flex work options a little bit differently. Not every position has the ability to do that. Sometimes you're in a position where you have to be in person for that customer service experience. And in other cases, you don't necessarily have to be. I'm in a call center. Everything that I do is virtual or via phone, via phones. And so it looks a little bit different. Over the years, this is something that a lot of organizations have really struggled with about, how do you put a value on that? And it doesn't usually end up being a dollar value to the model, just simply because you can't necessarily you can't associate a dollar to it. So it becomes one of those fringe benefits that you can't truly calculate because sometimes there holds value to certain people and not to others. And sometimes you get the option and not to others. So.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say to everyone else, the reason I'm curious about that is on one of the pages of the salary study, I believe you stated that the 39 and under age group is one of particular concern. They look for flexibility, and that's a very concerning thing for them. And well, that would be one of the most, and as I talk to people, that's one of the most discussed items that comes up. If they do have the ability to work from home. So I am a little surprised that doesn't have any weighting. I understand that it's difficult to put a dollar value to it, but you'd think that it would have some type of weighting on the end salary.
Well, I think that, at the end of the day, that 50th percentile compensation strategy that we've aligned the county to can play a factor or can play a role into that, because there's a lot of reasons why organizations might opt to go higher than the 50th. They might opt to go to the 55th. It could be the 60th. It could be because they are, where they are geographically, who their neighbors in competition are. Similar, conversations about we can't always offer work from home. So we want to make sure that we can boost our wages so that we can maybe be a little bit more competitive with some of those opportunities that are there. But when we talk about that all comes with an associated cost. So we talked about the 60th percentile very early on in our project, but we knew Also, early on, when we were looking at that salary analysis and how you were doing against the 60th, that it probably was not going to be a financially attainable option for you. It might be something down the road. I tend to urge a little sense of caution with this, that, we're hoping that we're going to get you into a new model. Let you start with that new model. How is that going for you? And in 3 to 5 years, let's do a market update for you to see how you're doing. At that point, you should have some really good, strong metrics to know, did that 50th percentile work for you, or have there been some inherent challenges? Do we need to plan for being a little bit more higher than the 50th percentile to accommodate for some of those very issues like under age 40 and what they're looking for and what we can offer? Because we are a little bit more of a government is a little bit more traditional. We can't always offer the things that you might find in some of the more non-traditional systems.
Thank you. I'll let someone else ask a question. I do have more. Thank you.
Supervisor Hort?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions. First thing I wanted to bring up was, is there a process currently in place, and maybe this would be for the director, that we do exit interviews on the part of associates or people that have left the employment? Because to me, I'm wondering, my question will be, was that factored into the discussions regarding what we needed to do? Because obviously that's firsthand feedback for us.
Yeah, so we do complete exit interviews with our employees, and we have that data. It is difficult to get all employees to complete it. I believe our completion rate is, I want to say like maybe 30-ish% of employees that do actually complete it on their way out. And then there are some challenges with that as well, because sometimes people aren't always completely transparent on the reason why they're leaving. And they may even indicate that pay is why they're leaving, but really it was a supervisor, but they don't want to say that. We did also complete an employee survey, which was shared with the county board, and it showed the percent of employees that were currently dissatisfied with their pay. And we've seen that's the way the data has been trending, that employees are more and more dissatisfied. And I attributed that to last year, we did not have merit increases because we weren't able to budget for those. So I think that kind of resulted in that dissatisfaction for employees. But the answer to your question is yes, we are completing exit interviews.
Has there been any discussion about how that can be improved upon if we're only getting 30% responding?
Yes, and that's actually something my team and I recently discussed, that's going to be a goal. We don't necessarily have a strategy around it yet, but we do want to be working with supervisors to help encourage employees to complete that exit interview. And in the salary study report, Melena also provided a recommendation that we do some stay interviews with employees. And that's also something else that we've discussed, is trying to target when a pattern of when we notice employees are leaving. So if we're noticing as somebody that works in the youth development center that they're leaving at the 7th month mark, that we're reaching out before that to see how things are going, so we can hopefully identify some issues before that employee decides to leave.
My next question has to do with the numbers. And if I'm reading this correctly, that's what I'm trying to understand, is that if number 3 is adopted, which is moving up to the minimum, the prorated component to that for this year would be $335,000 impact, plus the potential of any PTEB that may or may not have been factored into that. Is that correct?
And this, yes, with the caveat that there are employees that are coming and going. And so we do need to rerun this number after merit, right? And so the number is going to be a little bit fluid, but generally speaking, yes, that's your number.
So that would be the number that would be impacting it would be additional costs to this year's expenditures. That what I'm hearing?
Supervisor, no, it was
No.
included in the 26 budget. So the total amount of expenses that are included in the 26 adopted budget, which you emailed me about the other day,
So
includes this increase.
No, so that means then that the expense plan that we have in place and rounding the big numbers off
Yes,
that currently appears in the adopted budget will not be increased at all.
not in the 2026 annual budget.
Okay, last part of my question is probably more for the staff, but please weigh in, is with these numbers currently being presented for consideration, my thinking is I'm probably more into the thought process of impacts to 27 and 28 and beyond, because this is reflecting a 1% quote increase to the minimum number. By the time we get around to a full annual number for 27 and beyond, my sensitivity is trying to take a look at what kind of incoming revenue are we going to have that's going to be able to offset those increased expenses, because we know they're going to happen. And we know that all increases will be on top of what we're currently paying. So if it's up 1%, it'll be that much more going forward. How has much thought been given on that piece of it? Because we're about to approve something or consider something for approval that's going to have a direct correlation to what next year is going to look like and the future.
Yep. If I may, Supervisor, in the memo that the HR director provided for this item, we did include a graph that would project it out in 27, 28, and 29, assuming a 3.5% increase. So it goes from a net cost, which would include revenue. And I just want to point out that there are a lot of employees where the revenue is not capped. Economic support is a 50-50 match. Child support is a 66% match. So we're not going to run out of that grant funding. So the net cost in 26 is 1,005,000, and then add 3.5%. So 1,040,000, 1,076,000, 1,100,000, assuming I think conservative 3.5% increase to that area. And I do want to note that I did just a real quick running of adding an 18% fringe rate, which would be about WRS and FICA and some of those other variables, and it added $5,000. So it'd be $340,000 within the 26 budget, still well below the $542 that was budgeted.
I will finish by just offering that philosophically, everything that I've seen makes sense. I believe in the concept of having a philosophical compensation approach so that you have a benchmark that you're striving for. My sensitivity right now is that this year, we're currently having to reflect in our budget that we're going $2 million into reserves for our break-even status. And this will all have a direct impact as we start to look going forward into the future years. And obviously, that's part of where my own sensitivity as I review things and where I'm coming from. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Horth. Supervisor Kolb.
I guess I got a couple questions. When you were talking about like doing by the position, what or years in service in a position,
Yes.
how do you characterize, like, okay, you take a bottom level person, if they're in years of service, they're in an entry level position for 10 years. How do you keep giving that person a raise when there's room to progress, but they don't progress? Versus somebody that's in a top end level position where they don't have anywhere to go that you want to keep. You know what I mean?
I'm falling short. So you're talking about within the salary range and giving them future opportunity. Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying, as you get an entry level person that's fair, probably almost an employee you should get rid of it over time. But yet they stay in that same position because they show up enough to keep their job.
Mm-hmm.
But yet you give them a bonus because they've been there for a long time versus a director or something that's here that, that has nowhere to go up, but you really want to keep that person because they go above and beyond.
Right. So what you're talking about is when we were looking at our various options, you're looking at option 2 and placing within by years of service with the organization. And you actually just you nailed the issue that a lot of folks that are considering that have, because just because you've been in the position for that certain number of years does not mean that you should automatically progress. You could be there and simply barely be getting by, and it's not rewarding then I call them the gold star employees, right, that are going above and beyond each time. That's why that was not opted, because it does not fit within the culture, it does not fit within the organization at this time, because you are driven by performance management, even though you haven't been able to offer merit increases as of late. When we meet with all of the departments, we talk to them about that, and that there is a solid foundation here that your department heads support merit and being able to pay by performance. That is really, because you could see there's not a substantial difference between option 2 and option 3. We opted not for option 2 because it really does not fit really the mold of Racine County, much like option 3, which is the option that we are going with, allows you then to be able to use the funds that you have budgeted for merit. And we felt that that was going to be much more important for your departments to be able to do that reward process through that traditional process.
Well,
So-
just trying to understand the study a little bit, because we did pay for the full study.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to understand, why did we pay for 1 and 2 if 3 is kind of what we're going to end up with anyways for the full study?
It's nice to know what your options are. It's nice. So option number 1, that's your top dollar. If you had no budgetary considerations and you said there's an open checkbook, which no one has ever said, we want you to know what your top number is. And, so we were looking at $8.8 million just to get to the 50th percentile, everyone at the midpoint. And we know that that's not responsible. It's not reasonable, but you at least now understand your guardrails of how high these projects can go. When we start a project, we don't know where your organization is at culturally. I'm just going to call it culturally. We don't know if you are, there. I will go to another county next week, and they have a step model, and they will absolutely be saying that they want that implementation to occur by year in position, and that will be really the end of their discussion. So we don't come in here with a canned option. We come in, we have the conversations, and we say, all right, let us at least show you the options, and let's talk about what feels like it's going to match your organization. And option number 3 felt like it was the best match for you. And it is all covered under project costs. We don't charge any more for doing it, the extra costings like this.
Okay, I got one more. If we do number 3, how does that help us address some of the long-term open positions that we're not even getting people to apply because the salary's so low?
Well, hopefully, if we've done our due diligence and this has been a long process, we look at place positions on multiple different pieces of information. Number 1 is that market. So your market range that we give you from minimum to maximum should be and is aligning with what we find in the external market, even though our midpoint is a very specific number. So, getting those ranges aligned should help for any of those that are out of alignment. And then, of course, we look at compression separation. We'll look at the position analysis in case maybe they're doing something a little bit different than what we would find in the external market. And then you've got that internal comparability. I cannot say that if you implement this, it's going to fix all of your vacancy woes. That is not going to happen. I don't want there to be any expectation of that, because this does not bring you the human capital of your community that have those skill sets necessarily that you're looking for, but it at least puts you a seat at the table, because there were some very specific positions that we talked about of, all right, our neighbors are paying this much, and this is where it's going to fall within the salary range. Is that going to help? And we do hope that that is going to help, but it's not going to fix all of your vacancies. You will continue to utilize your range as you do with the hiring process to be able to bring people in a little bit higher than the minimum, if that's what you need to do.
Thank you, Supervisor Kolb. Next up, we have Supervisor Caprillion.
Thank you. there is quite a bit to digest
Here
here.
is, I know.
And I'm just having a hard time focusing on what we're trying to solve. I understand by doing the study in the last week, you went over some data, but still sitting here, I don't know the overall picture. And I'm sure it was brought up a little bit just by the data and the charts, and I pulled it up from what was given to us from your presentation. But I'll give you an opportunity. I somewhat have a question, but you did address it to a tiny bit. But then Supervisor Cole talked about vacancies, and so we're looking at vacancies. Are we looking at retention? So before we're looking at talking about an implementation cost, I want to make sure we're solving the right problem. And sometimes a problem only exists because it actually exists, or we talk about it and we make it exist. If it truly is a problem or not, it's just because we're talking about it here and we're so far away from the actual workforce when we sit in this county board room making decisions. So is our primary challenge recruiting employees, retaining the ones we already have? Because those call for different solutions. Do we have data on where we're actually losing people? And I think it was asked about exit interviews, and at what tenure point in which department and why? Because if we're losing people at 3-year, or if we're losing people at a 5-year, moving everyone to this market rate midpoint, that's kind of the goal, right up on top, that absolutely makes no sense, so I see that it doesn't fix that. I would want to see more of the retention data before we commit to any implementation strategy, quite honestly.
So I would say the overall problem that we're trying to solve and is that we've been addressing issues just like, okay, that department, that position's on fire and there are a ton of vacancies. We need to do something now. But we have never taken a holistic look. And so there are positions within the county that have fallen way behind. And when you're addressing just positions one off, you really are compromising the overall internal equity between positions. So this gives us the framework. So I remember during budget when there were questions, everyone kept saying, you don't need a salary study if you have the framework. We didn't have the framework. This gives us the framework. And I think it addresses both retention and recruitment. And as far as which positions we lose people the most, it's the 24/7 operations. Over and over, that those are difficult. They're working weekends, they're working nights, they're working holidays. They're very demanding positions.
Sorry. I understand that feeling. No.
But I can give you specific numbers if that's what you're looking for. I don't have them with me right at this moment, but I can absolutely give you turnover by department if that's what you're
Well, I think
seeking.
it's really important for us to understand the full picture. I mean, it makes sense what you're saying. There is no doubt. However, we're an employer of 1,000 plus, employees. I would expect our system to be quite complex. Yes, trying to find something of a more structure to simplify that makes sense too. But there's a reason for the complexities of it for sure. And I'm sure that's why we have a group coming in to help try to, streamline this in a way that can help solve some of the issues you're facing by just putting out fires, right? But okay, the 24/7 operations, I mean, that's good. Does this solves more than that though? We're addressing a little bit more than that.
And I think to do this right, you need to be looking at every single position.
Yes.
And not just because you end up with what we have if you're only putting out fires.
Right. And I would hope that we're not just putting out fires for sure. But then when we're looking at compensation too, I remember going through, when you went through the slide, I think it was Supervisor Rossi, who even brought up when we're doing the comparisons to the comparable organizations, I'm thinking just because I know a couple offhand here, the retention's horrible and their pay is high, but the retention's horrible. So to use them, I think they're kind of this anomaly and we shouldn't put so much weight in it because I think the numbers tell a false story, but yet we're going to use them to make our average or our market point. Because I think he had asked you whether you consider the retention, and I think you
Yep.
said no.
Yep.
And, but does it tell a true story? But yet we're going to work off their numbers to, raise a point. And I don't think then we solve much of anything, quite honestly, because the story's a little bit bigger than that. So anyways, I'm working through a lot of this.
And it definitely is more than just pay. I mean, it's a lot of different things. And what's difficult is a lot of it is these jobs are very difficult.
Yeah.
That doesn't, people can't just come in and learn the job within a week, 6 weeks. I mean, it takes a year or more for the bulk of our positions at the county before people really know them. And then they might realize, I don't like this job. And some people aren't able to get the training and grasp the job and be able to be successful in the role. But it is a lot. And the report also includes recommendations for benefits, paid time off. So my goal would be to, after we get this hopefully to the finish line, meet with the county executive and kind of prioritize what do we want to work on next. But we're going to continue. I mean, that really is, I think my role is to continue to work on all aspects of trying to make Racine County an employer of choice. And there isn't just a one solution, but this is, I think, something that does need to be addressed.
And I can honor that. I can honor that approach. And I will say, if anything else, what this study does do, and it does show our employees that we are invested in understanding their positions to make sure they're compensated. I can tell you, as being an employee anywhere myself, when there's an opportunity, sometimes you feel like what you're doing is not understood, or maybe your compensation may not be accurate to what you feel you're doing. At least as an employee, we are diving into it. So I think that's a good reflection of our commitment to honor our employees as well. So I'll just keep hearing the conversations, but I'm a little stuck on the direction, which one makes sense from what I'm hearing we're trying to solve. So, but thank you.
Supervisor Rossi.
Hey.
Oh, I missed you. I overlooked you. Okay, Supervisor Rossi, could you hold off? I missed the chairman here. Chairman Kramer.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, I
It's
just,
been a long day, a lot of meetings.
yes, it has.
I just got a quick question. Well, a couple quick questions. Number one, the annual gross cost, that's the total dollar amount for the salary of 1.9. And then if you go down to the next the annual levy cost, so that would be minus the grants and the stuff, the funding from the Fed and the state for different programs.
Yes, Chairman.
Okay, so then, and so if you take 15%, that's $286,000 again. Has that been calculated in the $1 billion? This FICA, the FICA, the retirement?
I only calculated this on wages. I did not include fringe benefits with this. We don't know what the fringe benefits are going to be in the 27 budget.
I mean, we know what FICA, but so
But we don't.
I've never seen WRS go down in my 30 years. So it just inches up a little bit. And then, there's other things, of course, that we have in there, but so we're talking about 286 million on today versus, if we had it set in stone today, the 15%. Does when you get reimbursed from the state and feds, do they take into account all of that plus the liability insurance, everything that you get back?
Yes, it's the total gross cost of the employee.
Okay, so roughly a little less than half will come back. So you're down to 143 million, 143,000. So somewhere we have to find about $1.1 million. It's like for the next budget,
27.
27's budget, yes. Is that correct?
Yeah,
I have not
Yeah.
prepared the 27 budget for the county executive yet, so
But you're asking us,
yeah,
you're asking us to spend $1 million plus a portion of, the benefits that go along with salary. And I know, you got today, it's $1.1 million.
I'm just asking, but we can go on to the next question. With PTO time, does everybody stays pretty much the same, or they get more,
Yeah.
or is there some areas that are gonna lose time off?
No, we're actually not making any, I'm not proposing that we make any changes tonight.
Okay,
So tonight is just about,
just about the salaries.
yes, and then I'll prioritize with the county executive, and then I would be coming back to you all to make any changes, but that would have to be really thought out. And there would be a lot of policies that would have to be changed as well. So,
Okay,
that's, yeah, not, I think it's great to read about it, but that's not what we're considering tonight.
okay, that, then I have one question for you.
Okay.
When you come in with the sheriff's separation between lieutenants, captains, and probably the chief, you get a 10% separation there. What's our current separation?
Ooh, off the top of my head, I do not
Okay.
recall. I'm sorry.
That's all right. And how did you get to 10 versus 7.5?
It's what I would consider a best practice or a standard that we try to adhere to whenever possible, because we do know that there will be in certain ranks and separation, you're going to have some overtime. And then at a certain point, you're going to have a loss of that overtime. But, really what is that percentage difference between those pay ranges, and when a person promotes up, what should that separation level look like? Because what you want to make sure is that you've got enough separation to make it meaningful enough that a person wants to promote. Usually when you're talking about command staff, you're not looking to hire from outside the organization. You want to grow and develop from within. And if there's always going to be an intrinsic reason why a person wants to promote. Understood that, and I accept that, and I actually feel pretty strongly about that. And with that said, they will say, for the additional responsibilities that I'm going to be asked to take on, is it fine? What is the financial value or the financial benefit for me to be able to do that? And given the percentage separation that we have between the pay grades, along with what we would consider to be a best practice in the industry, 10% was where we fell.
Okay, so did we take into considerations other counties and what their separation is, or was this just an industry standard?
So we always look at the separation between other organizations when we're looking at that market data, right? I mean, the market data will give us the totality of the range along with what those incumbents are actually earning. But what we're doing is we're basing that on multiple organizations, and there's going to be some variances within each. So there isn't really a hard percentage number that I could offer here tonight. I can go back and I can look at my data, and I can certainly provide that to human resources if you'd like for me to do that. But at the end of the day, the other thing that you have to think about, or you should be thinking about, is, your base compensation in public safety is starting at that foundational level, which is your deputy sheriffs, which are part of the collective bargaining process. Right or wrong, good or bad, the collective bargaining process really does establish the cadence for what's going to happen with all of those other ranks above. And so you will find in some organizations that they either have smaller ranks or smaller ranges necessarily to help accommodate for that compression separation. They would try to address it on a little bit of a different basis based upon what's good for them and what they have previously negotiated.
So I understand that, with the deputies, everybody's going to get a bump up. Did we look at what Winnebago County does, or another similar county to us? That's
For
for separations on the command staff? Or did we just,
like I said, I've got the market data where we looked at each of those ranges. I can go back and I can calculate the percentage separation. We certainly can do that. With that, though, everyone's structure in all of those other counties are built uniquely to that organization. So it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison. We can tell you what the percentage number, what that outcome is, but I don't know that that will necessarily change what our recommendation is at 10%.
Okay, so, but you did take a look at the other counties.
But we have all of their salary data. We analyze their salary ranges. I can't necessarily say that I calculated every individual county and what the percentage separation was between each of their ranks. If you're looking at it from that granular level, then I will say no. Totality of your market data set, rank to rank, yes.
All right, I'm, that made it more confusing.
Okay.
Than what you said the last part. So basically you're taking you've got the data
We have the data.
and this is kind of a norm.
Yes,
The 10% is a norm.
it is.
Okay. And where do we get that? I mean, when I work with engineers, they've got numbers that they plug in. Where do we get that norm from? From labor statistics or?
It is an item that McGrath has developed over the years with working for the number of municipalities that we have worked with.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Supervisor Rossi.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to go back to something that Supervisor Kerpellian commented on, and then I did also mention at the last meeting we had on this. And Director Street, your comment was that this will address retention, and I just have to say, I think it's, with the study, and not anything you've said, Director Street, I think it's an oversight to not evaluate the retention issues that other counties might be experiencing when we're modeling after them. So that's all I'm going to say on that is I just think it's an oversight. We've talked about it enough. Next item. Did we segment out, and someone mentioned this earlier before, is do we know like a heat map almost of which departments are having the most issues? Do we have that raw data? Can it be made available to the supervisors?
I do not have a heat map, but I can provide, I don't have it readily available at my fingertips, but I can provide turnover by department. That's what you're looking for.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And that kind of segues into my next item here. You said that you have the data. I'm sorry, I forget your name again.
It's okay. It's Melina.
Melina, thank you. I'm horrible with names.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
If I do that again, forgive me again.
It's okay.
You said that you had the data for comparisons for the, at least some of the municipalities. I know you don't have complete data, but you have Kenosha County's wages?
If they are listed as one of your comparables, which I do believe they are, then we should have their data.
I'd like to see that in a comparison because, we are talking about increasing salaries, and it's easy for me to compare to Kenosha because their data was readily available. And some of the things that are interesting to me, and I'd like to make sure I'm understanding your implementation strategy here. So let me back up. When you say option number 3, move to the minimum, when you say move to the minimum, you've got ranges here in the salary study, which are minimum, mid, and max. When you say implement the minimum, that means implementing the range as it's defined in the salary study, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. So the interesting thing to me, and I thought that I'd see numbers much more even, is the best way I could say it. I did do a 2026, so the salary or the wages for Kenosha County that were implemented on December 1st, 2026. So they would catch the tail end of this, which would be this same comparable year. So the wages that we intend to implement versus the wages that Kenosha County has implemented already. And this is not an attack on anyone's position because some of these people might be in the room. I look at, for example, Corporation Council. The minimum gap from Racine to Kenosha would put Racine at an $11,000 increase. The mid would be 14,900, and then the max would be 18,000. And I say that because I thought it would be more of a, bring us up to Kenosha. I look at the IT director position. That's a 19,000 increase, 24,900 increase in the mid, and then a $30,000 increase on the max. And then a lot of there's some management positions in facilities manager, finance director, HR director, human services director, all the 185s, 165, and the 150. Those, excuse me, the 150 doesn't. So the 165s and the 185s, those are anywhere from 7 to 11,000 on the min, and then 12 to 18,000 on the max gap for the Racine Kenosha comparison.
So there's a couple of points here that I'd like to just, I don't know if you were, because I was online, I don't know who all was here during that meeting. So one of the things to think about and remember is that what our goal was not to try to align you to Kenosha. Kenosha was one comp, one data point of a number of other organizations that we use. And what we do then is we collect all of that data and we run a data analysis. So we have the minimum, midpoint, maximum, and then we also take a look at what those incumbents are earning for each of those positions. And so there will be times when you will probably be higher than Kenosha. There might be times when you're going to be lower than Kenosha, and it really just depends upon what the data set as a whole is telling us, knowing that what our strategy for the county, what we are recommending to you is the 50th percentile. I don't know what Kenosha's compensation strategy is. I don't know who their comparables were that they used to even develop those ranges or anything of that nature. So, when we go out to market, what we're doing is, and I understand, and I know I appreciate the thought of, what is their retention with that model. But the reality is that we're not looking at it from that lens. At that time, what we're doing is we're saying, what is the market telling us about the compensation of that particular classification so that we can develop a recommendation for you? So there's the market data. We are not going to say, all right, Racine has to be this and Kenosha has to be that. That's not what our methodology is. When we build the model, the other thing that we have to keep in mind here is that we've got levels of separation. And so, those departments, they also have subordinate personnel that have very specific markets as well. And, we have to make sure that we have proper separation with that. That might mean then, we go back to our 4 cornerstones that we used to build the system for you. Number 1 was the market. Number 2 was the position analysis. Number 3 is that compression separation. How in the world are we keeping that separation? Then number 4 is that internal alignment, and how are like or similar positions within an organization pay graded together. So the totality of what we do, it's not going to simply just be based on one community's market data. I appreciate the conversation, but it goes a little bit more deep than just that.
Thank you. And I guess my response to that would be, there are geographic limitations to these types of things, and Kenosha and Racine do have a lot of similarities, and maybe you're not aware of this, maybe this didn't come up, during the time you were doing the study, but a lot of what we do in here is, we're looking at our neighbors and seeing what they're doing, and we benefit from that. Sometimes we don't benefit from that. But in this situation, I see a lot of options for comparison there, especially when we're trying to reduce retention and, the competition, or increase retention, and, the direct competition is our neighbors. And if we're not really looking at our most comparable neighbor, maybe Walworth is more comparable, but I think that's a major concern and approach here, and to not acknowledge that, there's some good information that can be gained from comparing Racine and Kenosha in terms of salaries. And, of course, thinking of these geographical limitations, someone's not going to like driving an hour to work every day as opposed to driving, between Racine and Kenosha. I'm confused by that. And I understand your modeling approach. I completely do. But there's usually weighting that happens with these things. You weight the more comparable, the closer, the items that are going to be, more realistic to affect your modeling. And I'm from what I'm hearing from you is that isn't the case. You take 17 counties and they all have the same weight, or 17 municipalities plus counties.
Well, I'm I want to be cautious about this, because what is being questioned is our methodology, and what is being questioned is the methodology, and what organizations will often do is to ask outside entities to come in and take a look at your organization, your compensation system, your classification system, to develop recommendations based on a very specific methodology, which we've given you the overview of that methodology. I think that if the additional details about our methodology are wished to be discussed, that might be something that we talk about, not necessarily in a public forum, because we've got some proprietary processes, if that makes sense.
Thank
I
you.
can accept that for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Horth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know when I read the presentation, the entire document, there was a comment in there that annual increases are all going, or annual evaluations are going to be done, or increases are all going to be done at the same time. Is that correct?
Yes, that was a change that we just recently made when we updated our policy manual. So those are going to be implemented in May. So the evaluations are all complete, and I'm happy to report that we have had the highest completion rate than Racine County ever has. And I do attribute that to moving towards a all at one time evaluation period. So because that hasn't been applied yet, we did assume a 2.5% increase for employees. So some might be a little less than that and some might be a little more, but there is a lot of movement. I think that Gwen and her team have done a really good job to give you guys really solid numbers here, but there is an element of estimation when it comes to the impact of the merit increases and also employees leaving and hiring new employees throughout this entire process.
Okay, so just trying to understand. We have a recommendation that we would be taking this overall increase up in September. However, we're saying that there is going to be an annual performance evaluation process that will go into place in May.
So the merit increase, which is based off of 2025's performance,
Right.
and will be implemented in May, an average of that has already been included in the numbers that you see before you.
So, okay, going forward,
Yes,
when will annual performance reviews be given in 2027?
when they will be effective, it would be every May.
Every May.
Yes,
So that will be the starting point going forward, will be done in May.
correct.
So am I to assume then that in these numbers, that there's going to be increases given to people this May because of the evaluation, and then in September, there's another 1% going to be given?
That is correct. And that would be similar to what we've done every year besides last year, where we're giving a merit increase and then a general 1% or a cost of living increase.
Okay. Thank you, by the way, for also mentioning something else, that the discussions are really about just the wage analysis component, because I do have several comments that aren't necessarily good or bad after having read the presentation, because obviously it took us through everything to and including PTO and all those. So I'm glad to hear we're going to have a chance to be able to share that with you at a different time. No need to take it all up tonight. I wanted to stay strictly on the numbers tonight and understanding what that meant. So thank you, Director Street.
Chairman Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in 27, just to clarify the comments that were made, the merit will be around, or the merit would be around May of 27. Is that what? our
Yes,
plan
that's
is?
correct.
And then when would if there would be a COLA, when would we do that? Would it be in January?
No, typically they've been in July of every year, but I think
Okay.
that would be open to what the budget allows and would be determined by this board.
Right, and this year merit is going to be replaced with the merit increase was Not
The general
Yes,
increase or the COLA?
Yeah,
Yes, it
COLA.
would be,
Yeah.
we would be utilizing that funding
That's-
for this.
that's what, okay.
Yep. So when
Like-
we performed the payroll estimations projections for the 2026 budget, we included a merit increase for employees that are eligible plus the COLA increase July 1.
Okay.
The amount of that was, I'm looking at Byron,
600,000.
yeah, and then we put $250,000 into the contingent fund for any extra that would potentially be needed for this implementation. So 542 minus 250, the COLA increase itself is 292,000. We would be taking that money plus the 250,000 to use for this implementation. So that's why the methodology being presented is that at a minimum, employees will be getting a 1% increase because that's what's budgeted in. The 250 is really for those who are going above and beyond that 1%.
Right, and there's 37% of the people for positions are gonna have an adjustment.
Mhm.
Yeah, a true, I know I've lived through one of these and I won that. I mean, it was a big adjustment in my salary. And, when I worked for the state, and it was, they just justified it because they couldn't keep purchasing agents. And it's probably similar to some of the positions we have. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Okay. Supervisor Rossi, your mic's on. Do you have a comment? No? Okay, good. I have a comment here. I want to thank Milena, Gwen, and Sarah for putting this study together and everybody else that was involved in the finance department to this. I see it as a structural base, a framework, something that we have not had here since I've been a county board supervisor the last 8 years. Does it address different things that we've talked about tonight? Why do we have so many people leaving the county? The base that we're forming will address this. I think what some of the discussion hasn't evolved around is the variables that go into place with employees working for county government, private sectors. Those variables were mentioned in that circular piece you put together, okay? And what's interesting is I surveyed my nephews, my nieces, and their friends based on that wheel. And I can't remember everything in that wheel other than income, which seems to be a big factor, obviously. But the number one thing that the 10 people that I interviewed was the environment where they work, not the income. It was the environment. And it's up to us to create that environment as a county. And this is a great base to develop this for the environment that the potential employees work in and the current employees work in. So yes, that is the purpose of this study. And I would like to reread what we're proposing tonight and take a vote on it. This is a resolution by the Finance and Human Resource Committee authorizing modifications to the comprehensive structures and classifications for non-represented Racine County employees. First reading, if approved at this meeting tonight, will be March 10th, 2026 at the county board. I'm going to ask for one last comments, and then we're
Mr.
going to take
Chairman?
up a vote. Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like input from the other committee members, but I think if possible, it would be important to try to include the fringes in these estimates.
Director Zimmer,
I did that while we were talking. So basically, to Lena's point, we took the current rate, added the 2.5% merit, and then we figured out, should they be getting a 1% or should they go to the minimum? And then I'd figure out what their new base annual salary is. I added 18% to that, which I think is a fair estimate for the fringe. Then I added their 2.5, or their new minimum or 1%, and added another 18% to that. It changed by $15,000. So it's not considerable. And then going forward, I, estimated that out 3.5% each year. It changed by about 40 to 50 to 60,000. I'm happy to share my numbers with people. I would have to hide employee names from it, just for personnel stuff, but I feel pretty solid with the numbers, and I'd be happy to update any of this. I just want to confirm it is well below the 542,000 that was budgeted in the budget. And the intention is, I think, that we can come back to board this summer once the merit increases in, once we know where we actually land and the dust settles with this, to give you the complete accurate number.
Thank you, Director Zimmer. Supervisor Miller?
Yeah, no, that's all good. It's up to the committee if we can get that estimate in there for the fiscal note that we send to the board for next week. I think that would be appropriate, but I'll defer to my colleagues on the committee.
I just received a nod from Director Zimmer that will be completed.
Thank you.
Supervisor Rossi.
Thank you, Chairman. More so just a question on this 542. I must have misunderstood something because I believe when we were going through the budget process, the number was 250,000. That was the placeholder for the salary study increase. Is there another category?
Yes, the COLA increase was baked into the department budgets of 292,000 total. So within, say, the finance department, for all the employees that fall under my area, I included a 1% increase for them effective July 1st. That increased my wages budget, and the totality of that over cost, all the budgets, was 292,000. So we would be removing it, grouping it all together, figuring out how much the total implementation would be, and then dispersing it to the departments that would actually need it.
So would it be accurate to say then that
Mhm.
250,000 of this then would have already been implemented had we not even done a salary study?
292,000 of
Thank
it
you.
would have already have been implemented without a salary study.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I've exhausted all of the requests to speak. We're gonna take a vote. Youth and Governance, all in favor? Committee, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Supervisor Miller?
Aye.
The ayes carry. This will move to first reading at March 10th to the County Board 2026. Thank you for some great comments. I see Attorney Lansdorf.
Just one point of clarification, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to clarify based on Supervisor Miller's last question and the comments that were made. The motion that was made was to pass on the resolution itself, but it's my understanding that that fiscal note will be revised and that further action will be needed from FHR on that fiscal note. Is that a correct interpretation?
That is
The
correct.
board's understanding?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for clarification. Okay, I'm going to move on to number 6. We have Gwen Zimmer authorizing and adopting a debt management policy to direct the use, management, and reporting of Racine County's debt financing resolution requesting first reading at March 10, 2026 County Board. Director Zimmer.
Thank you, Chairman. During the budget processes, it became pretty apparent that this board was looking for further direction about policy that could impact positively our credit rating. And one of the items that I think is an easy sell is a debt management policy. So in working with our financial advisors, we brought them in with a few of the board leadership, including yourself, Chairman, to discuss what that could look like. We pulled examples from other counties, including Portage County, who just implemented one, and we drafted one together. So this is the policy that's put into place. It really just outlines what we're already doing, but actually puts it into word. There are 2 items in here that we are self-limiting or that we are giving ourselves guardrails around. I'll note on page 3, the restructuring of debt, which also could be called refunding or refinancing. We would be pursuing that anytime we go out for bond issuance, but we would only be actually refinancing the debt if we were to get a 3% savings, at least a 3% savings. And then also on page 4, by state statute, we are limited on the amount of general obligation debt that we can take to 5% of our equalized value. And just, I had those numbers handy. It was 25.2 billion in 26. So 5% is 1.2 million, $1.2 billion. And we currently have 211 million. So we're obviously well below our statutory limit. And under the advisement of that leadership that was included in that financial advisor meeting, we've placed a 3% limitation of our total equalized value rather than the 5%. So that would be 757 million. This has been cleared by our financial advisors, and S&P bond rating agency is aware that this is being under consideration.
I need a motion, please, from the committee. I have a first. I have a first and a second. Discussion. I'd like to thank Director Zimmer for this, as it does say specifically in the resolution, lines 28 through lines 35, and this was at the recommendation of the, what's the acronym again? GF what?
Are you talking about the financial?
Yeah.
Our financial advisors are PFM, but GFOA, the Government Finance
right.
Officers Association, they oversee all government accounting essentially.
And as it says in the resolution, the policy is to enhance the quality of decisions by imposing order and discipline and promote consistency and continuity in decision-making, rationalize the decision-making process, identify objectives for staff to implement, effectively manage post-issuance compliance, and demonstrate a commitment to long-term financial planning objectives. So I think this resolution is in place once we approve it this evening from this committee, and then to go on to county board for first reading. So I have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? Youth and governance, all in favor? Committee, all in favor?
Aye for
Supervisor,
Miller.
thank you. Any nays? Hearing none, this debt management policy will move to first reading at the county board on March 10th, 2026. Thank you, Director Zimmer. You're up again, number 7, Racine County Sales Tax Use. Racine County Sales and Use Tax Update Report for 2026.
Thank you, Chairman. By the ordinance section 7-233, as soon as I find out what our sales tax receipt is, I need to report it to this board. And the February payment was just over $2 million. And I just want to note, per the Government Finance Officers Association, who oversee GAAP, General Accounting Principles for all government accounting, It is recommended that or not recommended, it's required that we're a modified accrual basis. So anything that happens at year end, we look to see what period it falls into. Both January and February's payments were for 2025 periods. They were both booked back to 2025's revenue. So the full amount of revenue we received in 2025 is $17.1 million. We budgeted the 15 prorated. So we did exceed our estimates for the first year of the sales tax.
Thank you for the report. Any comments from the committee? Any comments from the supervisors in the chambers? Supervisor Horth.
I'm sorry, was a copy of that sent out yet? Because it says the report and there's no report attached to this, I know.
There's a report it's
It's
in the packet. So I believe that it gets forwarded to the board after this committee hears it.
Yeah, I mean, it's online. The documentation for this meeting that incorporates this report is online.
Okay. Thank you. I just didn't have it here and that's why I was
Right.
wondering. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it'll go to the board at the next meeting.
Yeah.
And will one be sent to the entire board of supervisors?
It goes to the county board next week.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, could this report therefore be passed on to the county board? Thank you. Okay, next up, we have transfers. Authorizing Gwen Zimmer from the Finance Department, authorizing a 5-year agreement, 2026 through 2030 with Una Solutions for budget and procurement software for a total of $411,301, and the transfer within the 2026 Finance and Information Technology budget. Action requested, first reading at the March 10, 2026 meeting. Good evening, Byron.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, committee members, and board members.
And Dwayne.
Right. So I'm Byron Dean for the record, Finance Department, and with me is Dwayne McKinney. He's the county's procurement agent. And thank you very much for having us here for the opportunity to present this resolution. So today, Finance is requesting committee approval for the multi-year agreement with Una Solutions, Inc. For budget and procurement software. So why now? You know, what are the current challenges that finance is facing that we're coming with this ask now? Generally speaking, our finance department is very lean. We have very lean staffing levels. For example, we have 2 FTE in the purchasing division and 2 FTE in the budget division. This is far fewer than our peers like Kenosha and Waukesha County, despite smaller, similar and larger scale. We currently rely heavily on manual spreadsheets and separate tools, which increase risk errors, slow processes, and limit visibility internally and externally. The Una platform will reduce manual work, maintain continuity of operations, and prevent burnout from our small teams. I'm just taking a little bit of a step back to give you guys some background, a little bit of context. Our current contract with Gravity, that's our current software solution, it ends in July of 2026. And so knowing that our contract is coming up this year, at the end of the last budget cycle, we started renegotiating the contract with Gravity, or attempting to renegotiate contract renewal with them. So this allowed us to also incorporate some of the county's desire into this renewal. For example, improved capital improvement plan is something that we heard from the board. A separate capital budget book, data transparency, which is for internal and external users, like the public, and also an automated interface between the software and our financial system, or our ERP. These are some of the things that we asked for in this renewal. And the quote we got back from Gravity was $46,000. So just kind of put a placeholder there for a second with the contract renewal with Gravity. And at the same time, we're exploring doing our due diligence to explore software for a procurement solution for the finance department for the county. This would specifically enhance RFP tracking and contract management and help move the county to more of a centralized procurement process with the intention of cutting costs and saving money. So through our procurement agents, Dwayne's professional contact, UNA was recommended for that procurement piece, okay? But keep in mind, we were still looking for a budget solution as well because our contract was coming due. So we quickly contacted UNA. We scheduled some demos, some demonstrations of the software, and it was very well received by the whole team. And as a result of that, we wanted to make sure that our interests were met, and it did meet the requirements. And during that demonstration, they also shared with us that they have a budget solution as well that is tailored to public sector needs. So we took them up on that as well because we are renegotiating our contract coming due. So we had demos in January and February of this year, which were also very impressive. So the UNA budget solution that they offer is basically a couple steps up from what we currently use. So in addition to being able to provide the things that we believe the county's requirements are for improved capital improvement planning, separate capital budget book, data transparency, the automated interface between the software and the county's ERP. In addition to those things, the solution will also greatly improve process efficiency through not just reporting out in a budget book format, but encapsulating the whole entire budget process versus a piecemeal approach that we use today. And we do well with what we have, but it's very piecemeal and it's very manual intensive, okay? So this would streamline the alignment of, would also streamline the alignment of county strategic goals as the overarching umbrella with department-specific goals and allow us to track progress through the use of key performance indicators, KPIs, and also facilitate the accomplishing of the county's goal of strategic financial forecasting. That's something that we heard that is wanted. So this would facilitate that as well. It also allow the creation of multiple budget products without being charged additional fees for each one. So for example, a budget product would be our operational budget book. Another one would be our capital budget book. If we decided later on down the road, we wanted a budget and brief or some other type of budget product, that would be covered under the solution that they're providing. But not least of all, and probably the most important thing, is the solution would ensure continuity of operations by eliminating complexity and simplifying standard operating procedures so that we have a solid system in place for the people coming after us to pick up and carry forward. So for these reasons, we believe UNA is the best solution for the county. Now I'll turn over to Director Zimmer so she can talk about the funding and close things up before any questions.
Thank you, Byron. Director?
Yep, and I'll just note that the budgeted use of funds were created by our procurement agent running and administering the Omnia program. You'll note that we did use 105,000 of that for the Discover Wisconsin contract annually, and the excess funds of it are just sitting in the finance department non-lapsing account. So part of it's $68,000 annually, and then there will be some white glove implementation. It is our intention, if approved, that this would go into effect for the 2027 budget. And I'd also like to note that per Chairman Kramer's desire, we'll be releasing that budget 2 weeks early. That would be at the end of September rather than the beginning of October. So really time is of the essence if we were to provide a new solution for it. We do have some council documents that we can share that kind of give examples from other areas, Milwaukee County, City of Milwaukee, Polk County. There's a lot of other municipalities that are using this. It is really great, I think, for the public and for board members to be able to dig in and create, dynamic graphs that link directly to our financial system. So it's real-time data. It's exactly what I've been hearing from the board supervisors, and this is a solution that I'm recommending to the board and to the county executive.
Any questions?
Questions from the committee? I do need a motion. I have a first and a second. Any additional questions from the committee? I must say, this is my conversation I've had with Director Zimmer about it, Byron about it. You know, we have procurement with this, we have project management with this, the budget book, the capital book, real time. Just, it appears what this system is offering us is we're moving into a new era of finance being immediate information when it's put online. So I am just really excited about this, and I'm happy that Dwayne found the contact. That's great. Okay, are there any questions from the supervisors, not on the committee? Supervisor Horth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Byron, taking a look at the budget for this year and looking at the number, the $411,000, that's the total over 5 years? Or is that each year?
That's the total over the contract term. It's
Total over the
actually
contract.
58 months.
And where did that expense fall into the plan for this year? What-
That's in our IT software subscription account. We currently pay $15,000 a year for our Gravity software. That's just for the budget book. So when I went out to get the original quote or try to renegotiate the contract or at least potential renewal with Gravity, that's our current vendor. I included different things that we believe the county required as far as the updated or enhanced capital improvement plan, data transparency, and the other things I mentioned. So that's when they came back with a higher quote of $46,000.
So that would be the software maintenance contracts that appears in your budget?
No, that would be an IT's budget. That's what, because it's a software subscription. Most software subscriptions get paid directly from the IT's software subscription account.
Yeah, this is your IT budget. That's why I'm asking.
So ultimately, it wouldn't live in our budget, and that's just kind of standard operation for the county as a whole. There's some exceptions, but
If I,
generally
yeah, if I may expand on that, the source of the funds would be coming from the finance department,
right.
the cooperative purchasing revenue, and it would be transferred. The use of the funds would be the IT software subscription budget line. And the reason why we keep most, if not all, software subscriptions within the IT budget is it helps for our indirect cost plan. We have to comply with federal and state allocations, we have to determine how much of those centralized services belong to each area. And by having all of the software that every department uses, like Microsoft Suite and stuff like that, sitting within the IT budget, it allows our indirect cost plan consultant to be able to more sufficiently allocate it out.
So that number is not in the budget right now.
The 15,000 is in the budget and it is in the IT software subscription line.
I'm sorry, it's in finance though. It's not in IT.
It is in the IT software subscription line, account number 1402-0000.428-500. There's 15,000 included within that dollar amount of 2,157,000. 15,000 sits in there for this product.
For our current vendor.
For
that
the
we
current
use.
vendor, yeah. So this would be an increase on that 15,000 in which we would have to transfer money from the finance department to help cover.
So it'll be moved over from one to the other.
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you, Byron.
Supervisor Kolb.
How long will this take and how many people to switch all this data over to the new system? And is this going to cost, because we're bringing on a lot more data, are we going to have to bring on servers and everything? Because if we're just getting the software, it's not where they're storing the data. We're going to have to store this data. Is there going to be other costs added on to this?
So that's an excellent question, Supervisor. So they have a dedicated, so the first part is how many people, how long is it going to take? So that's one of the reasons we want to get it to you guys as soon as possible, because we do have a very short crunch time. So for example, in May is when we normally have our budget kickoff meetings where we make all the budget documents available to departments to work on. So basically, we'd have to be done with implementation by then. So we have time to get it out to the departments, right? So it's March now. So we'd have the rest of March, whenever this gets approved, if it does, then April, and then about half of May. So we'd have about, what, 2 months to get things and fully implemented. UNA, the potential vendor, has assured us that they can work as fast as we can, okay? So it'd be myself and Nicole behind you in the corner, and probably Director Zimmer to some extent, helping on our side get the data, get things transferred over to the new system. As far as you had another question though I didn't touch on.
The server costs.
So the server cost, so there's one-time setup fees, basically. That's $61,255, I think, for the budget piece, and $4,000 for the procurement piece, okay? And I don't want to be a salesman up here for UNA Solutions, but they did give us the farm on this. And if you look at the quote and different things and other things they're willing to work on us with for keeping the one-time fees down, and it was a solid deal. But so it'd be $61,255 just for the budget piece, okay? $4,000 for the procurement piece, and that would include the RFP module and the contract management piece. So it's really 3 systems, together. As far as where the data is stored, this is a cloud-based service, so it'd be stored on their servers. So we wouldn't need further capacity, from my understanding, for our IT infrastructure.
Yeah, and to add to that, our current financial system, Tyler Munis, our ERP, is also cloud-based. So we would create links, bridges between the 2 systems where it'll be real-time transfer back and forth, but we won't need to purchase any additional server space because they're both on the cloud and they're both included in that contract price. And just to note that we did include within the quote a 3% escalator, so it is capped at 3%. So if they find that we use more data or something goes above it, it is capped at 3% for the 5 years.
And the 3% only applies to the budget piece. They left it off the procurement piece altogether. So the budget is about $48,500 per year, and then the procurement piece would be about $20,000 a year. And remember, the first quote we got from Gravity with a lot less was $46,000 if the county decides to go in this direction.
Okay, one other question, because I brought it up in the budget. This is what I was talking about at budget time. We're giving a lot of this software and a lot of this technology out. Is this going to save any positions or time, or is this just a convenience?
No, this is, I see the director wants to answer.
Yeah, I would very much like to stick up for my staff. It's a department of 2. I mean, really, the budget department is a department of 2, whereas if you look at Kenosha County, to one of the supervisors' comments earlier, being our greatest comparable, they have a department of 5. So it will not save staff time because I have no one else to cut. It will, or staff FTE count. It will save staff time. It will allow us to be able to work with directors, work with the county executive, work with leadership to be able to make better business decisions, instead of us having to manually update spreadsheets all day. It became really apparent that a solution like this was needed when I was on maternity leave last summer. I have been with the county for 16 years. I'm very much a working director and working within procurement and within payroll and within budget and within accounting. And by not having that resource there, it became very apparent that we needed a different solution that could help allocate some of those staff resources better.
It would make us a lot more efficient at the overall budget process. It really would be, it's hard for me to compare. It'd be going from like, we're the county, right? We're better than horse and buggy, right? But we're like, just a little tractor. This would give us a big tractor to plow more field with. It's by no means, it would be like a Ferrari or anything like that. It's a working vehicle for the whole county.
Chairman Kramer?
I think it meets all the standards that we would need. I've seen it, I've seen a demonstration many years ago or, a couple of years ago. And the budgeting you did say that it would monitor contracts,
Yes,
so we wouldn't get all the contracts?
excuse me?
All the contracts?
Yes,
Okay,
Mhm.
because we don't want to miss one like
That's
we
exactly
have
the
had in the
point.
past.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and,
Chairman.
and this is, you're welcome. And this is part of the county executive. He wants to consolidate everything. So everything will be in one specific area. Right, right. It's not here, there, like it has been. So Supervisor Rossi, got something?
Thank you, Chairman.
You
Good
are-
eye.
Yep, thank you.
I would like to comment on just the overall nature of the last year and a half regarding the software and, all these other purchases. It's 40,000 here. And we talk about, well, it's going to make us so much more efficient. And Director Zimmer mentioned, my bringing up our comparison. Well, the thing we don't ever bring up is, the comparison where other counties save money or do with less. And everything that comes to us, it seems like, is an increase. And we talk about efficiency. Director Zimmer, you were gone last budget cycle and the budget got done. So I understand, that it'd be great to have additional software. It'd be great to have more people, but things are getting done. I feel like we're creating a solution to a problem that at least I have not seen. I'm not in the department. I understand that, it's easier said for me when I'm, outside of it looking in, but I'm looking at this through the lens of, how can we keep adding every time? And I don't want to get too far off base, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said before, there's a lot of variables out there that we deal with, and people seem to come under that as a variable. And I want to make sure that we maintain quality people at the county, that we're efficient and we're transparent. And many a times I see our directors who work long, long hours. They have families to take care of also. And I want to maintain those individuals with upgrading our systems and making sure that we strive to be the best county out there. I also want to mention that there was a request to do this as a first and second reading because there would be a savings of time, which would then allow the finance to get working on this, should it get approved. I'm going to ask, is there anybody on the committee that wants to amend this resolution to first and second readings? I hear a first and a second from the committee to amend the existing resolution. Any discussion?
Chairman,
Supervisor Cabrillion.
I would like to understand that request a little bit better. I know that we get a lot of pushback when we're bringing before to the county board first and second reading. It just feels like there's just not enough time for the whole due diligence or transparent process to take place. Granted, we're talking about it in detail here, but there are county board supervisors who are missing from this discussion. So I just don't feel comfortable unless I can understand the rationale a little bit more than what you've just presented.
Okay, yes, I was brief about it, but I will have Director Zimmer and or Byron to explain in the event that this would go to first and second reading at the county board meeting next week, Tuesday, what benefit that would be for the finance department. Byron.
So we've been in conversation with the potential vendor, UNA, and basically we have as I shared before, we have till May 19th, according to the current budget calendar, as it has been moved up a couple of weeks at the request of the board. So we have a very short amount of time to actually get the new system implemented. UNA Solutions had strongly urged us, if possible, to move by March 10th. And we had shared with them our limitations. And ultimately, that was up to the pleasure of the board, whether they wanted to approve that or not. But the very simple answer to your question is, we need the time to implement it if it's going to be approved.
Additional questions you had on Mike? Thank you.
Thank you. Time equal money, or is just time equal time on this one?
I'm sorry, Supervisor, I don't understand what you're
Well,
asking.
you know, I just think the argument is, I mean, we all can use some time. I can't tell you how many times I always say, I just wish I had more time to get this done. Or is this a savings? If we extend to another period and we take it to just only first reading and then second reading, granted, it puts more pressure on your department. I understand that. We all want the luxury of more time, but if you can tell me it equals a savings of some sort, it makes more sense to me. So,
Well, Supervisor Caprillion, I don't know that I can tell you we would save money because the quote's been given and
Yeah.
what's there, but when we don't get paid overtime,
Yeah,
I can tell you if we did get paid overtime,
it would
you
save
know,
you money.
that would,
so that's what you're saying to me. So if this does not go to first or second reading, that means there's going to be a lot of overtime in your department.
no, because we don't get paid overtime, so there would be no
Well,
overtime.
no overtime pay, but hours.
But if there
of-
were overtime,
Yeah,
we
but
would
just
be
hours.
collecting it.
Yes,
Um,
yeah, I will, I don't want to address the comment from before, but yes, my staff and myself regularly work more than a normal work day, in particular when audit field work is coming up, starting April 10th. So, oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean, we have conflicting cyclical processes within the finance department, including an audit field work, which is starting on April 10th. So it would be obviously a major benefit to be able to have some more time to implement it, but also at the pleasure of the board. I didn't request it. The chairman told me no, and so I'm not pushing it, but appreciative of for the consideration.
And just one last thing, regardless, we'll do our utmost to make sure it gets done. It would just be very helpful if we had a couple more weeks.
Mr. Chairman.
I see up there Supervisor Miller.
Yeah,
You have
thank
the
you.
floor.
It would be wonderful to have more time. I think, knowing our board, knowing our rules, this would be a 2/3 vote, if I'm correct. And a couple supervisors not there and a couple concerned about, rushing this through. I think we risk actually defeating it. So I don't think, first and second is a good idea.
Okay. Any other comments? I do have on the floor a first and a second.
Can I just make one more comment?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I think Supervisor Miller hit exactly what I was thinking, is that if we're pushing this through, we are chancing whether that feeling of something being rushed through and then it get lost altogether. That's my biggest fear about this. Not to say it's something worthy and not disrespecting the amount of time that you are going to have to put on this. That's outside of what the other tasks you have to do. I'm just afraid that it's going to risk an overall approval vote.
Thank you. Chairman Kramer.
Point of order, just to make sure that you vote on the amendment and then, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's take a vote here. Youth and Governance, all in favor? Committee, all in favor? Aye.
You didn't understand. You need to vote on the amendment first.
Right, that's what we're voting on, the
So,
amendment.
the amendment
I'm voting
passed.
on the amendment.
Okay,
The amendment
make sure that-
passed. 4-2. This will go to county board for first and second reading next week.
You need to vote
Tuesday.
again. You need to vote on the order, the
Oh, thank
amendment,
you.
and then
Time out. I thought I heard you say no. Okay, my mistake. I'm sorry, I rushed into it. I need clarification on that. I'm confused, please.
We have a roll call.
Yeah,
On the
that'll,
amendment.
Just ask for a roll call
ro-
for the amendment.
for the amendment. Let's have a roll call on that, okay? All those in favor, I'll start with Supervisor Spencer. Supervisor Caprillion. Supervisor Nielsen. Supervisor Shakur. Chairman Trottier, aye. The voice vote is 4 yeas. Who did I
You want
miss?
me to vote, sir?
Supervisor Miller.
No.
So we have 4 yeas and 3 nays. This amendment, 2 nays. God, I can't, I'm burning out here, everybody. Sorry. So we have 4 ayes, 2 nays. The amendment is passed. We will have first and second reading at the county board on Tuesday.
Mr. Chairman, now you need to vote on the original.
The motion is passed. Now we will vote on the amendments passed. Now we vote on the motion. Roll call. Supervisor Spencer. Supervisor Caprillion. Supervisor Nielsen. Overall now. Supervisor Shakur. Supervisor Miller.
Yes.
Supervisor Trottier, yes. What do we have? All ayes. Thank you for the clarification, Chairman and Supervisor Shakur. Thank you. Okay. Next up, I believe we have Corporation Counsel here for Racine County's 2025 annual claims of 500 or less settled by Corp Counsel. It's a 2025 report. Good evening, Attorney Circuitec.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I have before you simply our report that is, although not addressed in our ordinance, it is in Wisconsin State Statute, Section 5952, Sub 12, Sub B, that indicates that our office should be annually reporting to the board any claims that we would settle for $500 or less. So as you can see, that is all you have before you. You'll hopefully be seeing this usually in the opening quarter of the following year, like you have here. As it indicates, 2 of those claims came before our office that we were able to resolve under our authority. So you're familiar, this committee's familiar with probably 5952 and the structure that Sub 12 sets up. This committee has the ability to settle claims up to $10,000 by way of a report to the board. And any claim over $10,000 has to be ultimately approved by the board by full resolution. So the 5952 sub 12 sub B is the section that simply allows the corporation counsel to settle claims up to $500 without having to have formal finance approval or the board. So it is simply a report to indicate those 2 claims that occurred last year. We will likely have 1 or 2 this year, maybe a mailbox, something like that. So.
Questions? Seeing none, this does not require a vote. I'm requesting that this be passed on to the county board, please. Okay, next up, item number 10, I'm going to have Supervisor Spencer read. Youth and Governance, thank you for attending this evening. You're excused for the balance of the meeting. And I'm asking any non-county board members to remove themselves from the room, please.
It is anticipated that the Finance and Human Resources Committee will meet in a closed session pursuant to section 19.851G of the Wisconsin State Statutes to discuss with legal counsel claims against Racine County. Number one is Progressive Oboe Andrew Draper. What is Oboe? Number two is Daniel Autumn.
Mr. Chairman,
Again.
point of privilege. After the vote to go into closed session, I'd ask that I can be excused so you can terminate the live stream.
Sounds good. Let us first go into closed session. Supervisor Miller, let me take a roll call. Supervisor Miller, you stressed you were asking to be excused. Supervisor
vote yes.
Spencer. Supervisor Caprillion. Supervisor Nielsen. Supervisor Shakur. And myself and I. We are now moving into closed session, and Supervisor Miller, you're excused.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, I move we pay the claim to Progressive on behalf of Andrew Draper for the amount of $2,542.64. Are we doing them both together?
Oh, we gotta do them separately. Yeah. Second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is approved.
And I move that we approve the claim of Daniel Adam for the amount of $2,840.41.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? The two claims are approved by the Finance Committee. Next up, I have communications and report referrals from the county board. I need a motion to receive and file. I have a first and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none. On my list next is staff report, Joint Government Service and Finance and Human Resource Committee meeting scheduled for March 10th, 2026, 5 p.m. And then on the Finance and Human Resource Committee meeting alone is on March 18th, 2026 at 5 p.m. I need a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you all.